What if the greatest kingdom wasn't on Earth, but scattered across the endless, velvet night? And what if the only one who knew the map was a princess everyone thought was just a daydreamer? We're told to keep our feet on the ground, to focus on the world in front of us. But what happens when your destiny, your true self, isn't down here at all, but up there, waiting to be discovered? Stay with me for a story about a girl who found her entire world by looking away from it. In the kingdom of Solara, the sun was king. Everything gleamed. The castle towers were spun from golden stone, the rivers glittered like melted treasure, and the people's lives were measured in bright, sun-drenched days. Princess Aurelia was a daughter of this kingdom, and she was, to put it simply, drowning in the light. Her days were a perfect, predictable, and painfully boring schedule. Mornings were for lessons in diplomacy, which meant learning to smile when you disagreed. Afternoons were for fittings, where she was laced into gowns so heavy with jewels, she felt more like a chandelier than a person. Evenings were for banquets, filled with the clinking of cutlery and the dull chatter of lords and ladies discussing harvests and inheritances. Aurelia would sit there, a polite smile fixed on her face, but her mind would be miles away. She felt a profound emptiness, a sense of being a stranger in her own life. Everyone had a role. The king, her father, was the ruler. The knights were the protectors. The farmers were the providers. And she? She was the prize, a symbol of the kingdom's beauty and grace, to one day be married off to secure an alliance. It wasn't a life. It was a script she hadn't written. One stuffy afternoon, while trying to escape another lecture on royal etiquette, she found a door she'd never noticed before. It was small, made of dark, unpolished wood, tucked away at the end of a forgotten hallway. Curiosity, a feeling she hadn't felt in years, sparked within her. She pushed it open. A spiral staircase, shrouded in dust and shadow, coiled upwards into the darkness of the castle's highest, forgotten spire. Driven by an impulse she didn't understand, she began to climb. The air grew cooler, smelling of old paper and stone. At the very top, she found not a dusty storeroom, but a circular chamber. Its walls were lined with bookshelves, and its domed ceiling was a dark, deep blue, painted with silver and gold patterns she didn't recognize. A huge, strange brass contraption, like a giant mechanical eye, stood silently in the center of the room, pointing at a sealed skylight. It was an old observatory, a place for watching the night. In a kingdom obsessed with the sun, it had been completely forgotten. On a dusty desk, she found a leather-bound book. The gold leaf title was faded but still legible. It read, "An Atlas for the Lost, a Guide to the Heavens." She opened it. The first page had a handwritten inscription. "For my dearest Alara, may you always find your way home. The sky is not the limit, it is the map." Flipping through the pages, Aurelia saw intricate drawings of star patterns, charts of lunar cycles, and notes on planetary movements. It was a language she didn't know, but it called to her. That night, she feigned a headache to skip the royal banquet. As the castle fell silent, she crept back up to the observatory. With trembling hands, she managed to unlatch and heave open the heavy skylight. And then, she saw it. For the first time in her life, she truly saw the night. Not just a dark blanket between one day and the next, but a vast, living tapestry of shimmering diamonds. The moon wasn't just a sliver of light. It was a world scarred and beautiful. The stars weren't random specks. They formed pictures, told stories. She found the book again, and by moonlight, she began to read. That first night was a lesson in stargazing for beginners. She learned to find the North Star, Polaris. She traced the shape of the Great Bear, Ursa Major, and the hunter, Orion, with his glittering belt. This became her secret, her real life. By day, she was the placid Princess Aurelia. But by night, she was an explorer. She devoured the books in that hidden room, learning the names of constellations from lands she'd never heard of. She learned how ancient sailors used the stars to cross vast, trackless oceans. This wasn't just about pretty lights. It was about knowledge about freedom. She learned about celestial navigation, and the idea that you could find your exact place in the world just by looking up filled her with a sense of power she had never known. Her lady-in-waiting, a kind, quiet girl named Lyra, noticed the change in her. Aurelia was no longer just bored. She had a light in her eyes, a secret smile that would play on her lips during the dullest of court proceedings. One evening, Lyra found Aurelia sketching star charts in a notebook she kept hidden under her mattress. Instead of being alarmed, Lyra was fascinated. Soon, she became Aurelia's confidant, helping her sneak food up to the observatory and standing guard at the bottom of the spiral stairs. But as Aurelia's world expanded, the kingdom of Solaris was shrinking. A strange, persistent fog had begun to plague the coast, rolling in unpredictably. It swallowed the sun for days at a time, and worse, it confused the royal fleet. The ships of Solara, which relied on sunlight and shoreline landmarks to navigate, were getting lost. Trade routes were failing. Captains reported their compasses spinning wildly in the thick, disorienting mist. Ships were returning late, damaged, or not at all. A vital grain shipment from the Southern Isles was already a month overdue, and the royal granaries were beginning to look sparse. Winter was coming. Fear, for the first time in a generation, began to creep into the Golden Kingdom. The king grew haggard. His council of advisors offered no solutions. They ordered more lanterns to be lit along the coast, a futile gesture against the supernatural fog. One night, in the observatory, Aurelia was tracking the path of Jupiter when she noticed something in her great-grandmother's journal. It was a section on predicting weather patterns based on planetary alignments and specific lunar phases. She cross-referenced the dates of the fog's appearances with her own charts. There was a clear pattern. The fog coincided with a specific, rare alignment that seemed to create an atmospheric disturbance. Her ancestor had even noted that it disrupted magnetic fields. That's why the compasses were failing. Her heart pounded. The book didn't just say how to predict the fog. It explained how to navigate through it. By ignoring the compass and relying solely on the positions of certain stars that were bright enough to pierce the haze at key moments, a ship could hold its course. It was the lost art of pure celestial navigation. She knew what she had to do. The thought terrified her. To reveal her secret was to risk everything. She would be seen as a madwoman, a disobedient daughter playing with dusty old toys. But to stay silent was to watch her kingdom slowly starve. This was it. This was her moment. All those nights spent with her eye to the telescope, all those hours spent memorizing charts, it wasn't just a hobby. She was finally finding your purpose. The next morning, she walked into the throne room, not with a downcast gaze, but with her head held high, a roll of star charts tucked under her arm. The king and his council were arguing, their voices sharp with desperation. "Father," she said, her voice, clear and steady, cut through the noise. The king looked up, his expression a mixture of surprise and annoyance. "Aurelia, this is no place for you. Go to your chambers." "No," she said, and the room fell silent. "I will not. I know why the ships are getting lost, and I know how to bring them home." She unrolled her charts on the great oak table. She explained the planetary alignment, the atmospheric disturbance, the magnetic interference. She pointed to the charts she had drawn, showing a safe path through the fog banks, timed to moments when specific, bright stars would be visible. The council members scoffed. The royal advisor, a grim-faced man named Lord Valerius, sneered. "With all due respect, Princess, these are children's drawings. We are talking about the fate of the kingdom, not bedtime stories." "They are not stories," Aurelia retorted, her voice ringing with a passion no one had ever heard from her. "This is mathematics. It is astronomy. It is the science that our ancestors used to build this kingdom. We have been blinded by our own sunlight, and we have forgotten how to see in the dark." Her father, the king, looked at her. He saw not a disobedient child, but a fierce, intelligent woman. He saw the desperation in his people's faces and the uselessness of his advisors. And in that moment, he saw a flicker of hope. It was a mad chance, but it was the only one they had. "All right," the king said, his voice heavy. "We will give your map to Captain Evon. He is leading the search party for the lost grain ship. If your star path works, you will have saved us. If it fails, then may the sun have mercy on us all." The wait was agony. For 3 days, the castle held its breath. Aurelia spent every night in her observatory, tracking the search party's hypothetical progress against the stars, praying her calculations were correct. On the 4th day, the sun finally broke through the haze. A watchman's cry echoed from the battlements. "A ship! 2 ships on the horizon!" Aurelia ran, her heavy skirts flying behind her. She reached the ramparts just as the 2 ships sailed into the harbor. Captain Evans' vessel, leading the massive, lumbering grain ship, safe and sound. That evening, the king did not hold a banquet. Instead, he climbed the dusty spiral staircase to the observatory. He found Aurelia looking through her telescope. He stood beside her, and for the first time, he looked up, not at a dark void, but at the infinite, brilliant sea of stars. "You have your great-grandmother's eyes," he said softly. "She saw the future in the stars. I thought it was nonsense. I see now, it was wisdom." He cleared his throat. "The Royal Observatory is hereby reopened, and it will need a chief astronomer. The position is yours if you'll have it." Aurelia looked from the stars to her father, and for the first time, she felt truly at home. She was not the prize of Solara. She was its navigator, its watcher. She had found her own light, not in the blazing sun, but in the quiet, constant glow of a million distant worlds. And in doing so, she had shown her kingdom that sometimes, to find your way forward, you have to look up. Aurelia's story reminds us that sometimes our greatest strengths are hidden, mistaken for weaknesses or daydreams. Your passion, that thing that makes you feel alive, is never just a hobby. It's a map to who you are. If Lyra's journey to the stars inspired you and reminds you to follow your own unique path, please give this video a like. And to make sure you don't miss our next story, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching.